Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our Tanzania Youth Digital Summit. I hope you can hear me. Yes. For those of you tuning in to our session, my name is Bernice Fernandez. I'm the founder of Accelerate, and I will be your moderator today. And today we have for young women and what it means to have inclusive growth, all Tanzanian women. So we are so excited. So let's get started. I would love each of the panelists to introduce themselves, tell us who you are, what you do, a brief introduction before we dive into our panel. Welcome, Sekela. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So if we could have our panelists begin, and if you could unmute your name, who you are, your personal journey, your background, and then we can get into the questions. And for those of you tuning in, feel free to send in your questions while we're on our call.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, my name is Sekela. Okay.
Hello, Sekela.
Okay, hi Bernice. My name is Sekela. I work with Digital Opportunity Trust as the gender officer. I am a young feminist, I am a leader, and I am very passionate about gender equality and environment. I should continue, okay.
Thank you so much, yes.
Okay, I've seen you asked about our personal journey. So I believe I was born a feminist. Yes. At my young age, I actually did not know the vocabulary feminist, and I didn't know what was happening as a child. So I remember being a kid that has always been in the front line to ask questions. I would always demand answers like, why am I expected to act this way while my brothers are acting differently? So I was born in a family of 4 children. I'm the firstborn, and I grew up with my two younger siblings who were boys. When we were growing up, we started wearing the same outfits. We were playing the same games when I was a kid. But when I started growing up and the changes that were occurring to my body, my mom changed all of a sudden, and I was constantly being told to wear a certain way, to act a certain way. I actually didn't get it at first, but later on with life, then I came to realize that it's because I'm female. So, and me asking questions, or me starting to ask questions since I was a kid, is the reason why I say I've always been a feminist. I just didn't know the vocabulary. And because the society expects us to act a certain way, it has labeled some of us growing up, because I had a lot of questions. I was labeled as troublesome. So whenever I would go, if I raise a hand to question something, if I would want explanations on why I'm expected to do something differently than the opposite gender, I would just be termed, how should I call it, nutty, if that's the vocabulary, or troublesome. So I always found myself in trouble. Most of my tutors and teachers, some sort of ignored my hand, because they're always, they already labeled me, and that's my story. And in a place where what has contributed to a person I am today is I have gone through two mentorship programs, two feminist mentorship programs. One was facilitated by Tijan Pimtandao, and the other one was funded by Global Fund for Women through Akili Dada, an organization in Kenya. So being being a mentee in these two programs has opened my eyes and contributed to a person I am today, because we were provided with mentors and they are these powerful, incredible women that in the process they dedicated a lot of their time and their skills in making sure that I am becoming a better version of myself. And that is the reason why I've always wanted to be better, so that I can also be able to mentor other women. So being in a space where you witness an older woman with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of work to do, make time for me is the reason why I also want to be in a space and also being capable to make sure that I also help women around me. So I wanted to share a very funny story. It's not funny, but it's a story that has touched me. And whenever I remember it, I become even more passionate. So one day, I used to work in an organization that deals and works with a lot of media. So we were in a discussion, we were brainstorming about a young woman. We wanted to profile a young woman in our magazine. And I thought of a young woman named Gertrude Mligo, and I called her. First of all, I mentioned her name and what she does. Like, there's a woman, a very young woman named Gertrude. She's powerful. She's using her social media accounts to speak about equality, to speak about things that are facing youth. And she's also a writer. She's an artist, and she's doing a lot for young women. And I think women like that are not profiled enough. So if we're looking for a young woman to profile, and to throw out there so that students have somebody to look up to, Gertrude is the lady. So we called her and she came. When she came on the day of the interview, before she entered the room for an interview, I told her three things. Like, you know what, girl, you are incredible. The reason why you're here is because of, excuse me, of all the incredible things that you're doing. So you're already incredible. When you work in that door, you have to make sure you shine yourself. Like, make sure you shine. And if they can't handle it, it's better you leave the room that they're blind. And you have said everything about yourself, and don't leave out a detail, because that's what makes you incredible. And she just looked at me and she smiled, and she went in that room and she said everything about herself. And then we got a person to profile for a cover magazine. And like a month later, she told me, you know, before I entered, you told me that I was incredible and I should not feel too much. I should just express myself. I should just say everything about myself and everything that I like and everything that I've done. And that has really helped me and that encouraged me to express who I was and to show how great she was. And at that very moment, I remembered I was able to help her because I was helped by other women. Women dedicated their time to me, and I did not dedicate much time to Gertrude. I just mentioned her name and just told her to shine, to make sure that she shined, and that impacted her journey. And she also got a chance to be profiled because she was great from the beginning. She was just great, and that's the story I wanted to share.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful story of how you saw a young girl and you saw the capability that she had, and you pulled her in, you vouched for her, and you gave her just a small bit of encouragement, but that went a long way. And that, as us as women, as young women, we need to support each other. We need to pour into each other, because you never know what your words can help inspire or push someone forward. And sometimes a lot of young women don't have somebody pouring into them. So thank you so much for that wonderful story. And thank you so much for your wonderful introduction. We will now like to welcome Vanessa. Karibu Vanessa, please do introduce yourself. Tell us about a little bit about your background, what you do, how you're engaged as a leader, and if there's any life-changing moment that you've had.
Thank you, Bernice. Hi, everybody. I hope you can see me because I feel like it's a little bit dark. I don't know. Can you see me properly?
Yes, we can see you. It's a little dark, but we can see you.
Now I need. I can't find the right angle. So.
It's okay. You're good. You're good.
Great. So I'm Vanessa Kisowile. I'm currently leading Sahara Sparks, which is a sub-company of Sahara Ventures. I'm also a co-founder of an initiative called She Found, which is supporting women entrepreneurs and women-led businesses in Tanzania. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've run several businesses, but one business that I'm really passionate about is a travel business. It's called iTraveler. 2020 hasn't been fair to us, but yeah. So yeah, about my background. I have sort of my involvement with women starts from my family, and how my parents have really involved us. So we are three girls and one boy. But all the time that I grew up, I never really felt like I was being raised as a girl. I always just felt like I'm a child. I really, until I went to primary school in Lushoto, to be specific, because I started my primary school in Mafia Island, and then we moved to Lushoto for a couple of years. That's when I realized there's actually a difference between a guy and a girl beyond the physical difference. Because of how people would treat a smart girl. So one of my biggest characters is proactiveness, and I'm a perfectionist. I wouldn't deliver anything that is not of top quality, and in everything I want to be the first to push things to happen. I just if something is being brought into my attention, I'll go to the smallest of the smallest details. And that has been my character since primary school, which never really worked very well with most with most students, because it looks like unajipendekeza and you're being, although it worked well with my teachers because it gave them, it created a platform for me to get mentors who are older than me. So I had most of my teachers in secondary, even in university, really taking a closer look at me and really helping to shape me. And some of our older sisters, for instance, in secondary school, really just, I think they saw that character and they just wanted to mold me into a right direction, because, sometimes you can have something very good in you, but you need somebody who can show you that with what you have, mold it this direction. So that has been really helpful for me. And I do agree with Sakela, if I've got your name correct, that we do need women to get a good support system. That's the best way to actually make sure that their dreams come true. One of the defining moments for me, I have many, but I will say it started with my writing. So being different sometimes is not easy, especially when you're in a community. I started writing in secondary school. The challenge is I wasn't the normal girl. So I found passion in writing, and that's how, in one way or another, I found a way to One performance. It was a get together Form 1 or something like Welcome Form 1. And because I really wanted to fit in, I went to perform on stage music, and I am terrible in dancing. Goodness gracious, I am terrible in dancing. And one behavior of I was in Mazinde then. When you're not performing well, people actually cheer, and they even take the chairs up. So I thought I was doing amazing. And then after I moved from the stage, one of my sisters really scolded me. She said, "You've embarrassed yourself. You should do," like, she really was very straightforward with me, and that pushed me to find something that is of me, something that I'm comfortable with. And that's when I found my writing and speaking, which really contributed in my confidence and my growth, which in one way or another really pushed me to start working with young girls on being comfortable with who they are, finding something that they're really good at, and invest in that particular area. um, and just learn to polish these other areas, because sometimes no matter how hard the society wants us to fit in, if that's not what you're called here to do, you just lose the direction that you should be going. Although in the end of the day, I had to go back and practice for 3 months, and I killed it. So, but yeah. But yeah, so I think that was definitely a defining moment for me.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for your introduction and your story of your journey and how you were able to build your confidence, especially in writing, in ways that you could express yourself and be heard and seen. And I really love that you said women need to support women. I mean, we all do, and a lot of times when you see women, there tends to be competition, but the sky is too big for two birds to collide. Like, there's room for everyone, so we need to support each other. So thank you so much, Vanessa, for your introduction. I love your story, and I love your passion. So now we'd like to welcome Iku Lazaro. Welcome, Iku. Could you please introduce yourself, share a little bit about your journey, any inspiring story, a life-changing story that helped you as a leader or invest into women?
Wow, thanks, Bernice. That's a tall order. My introduction, my name is Iku. As you mentioned, I am the co-founder for Shule Direct. I'm also currently the Chief Operations Officer for Shule Direct, which is also hosting Dota Hub. So as a child, I think my biggest role model was my mother, because I grew up in a time where it wasn't very common for women to drive, for instance, and that was a big deal for me. My mom used to drive, and I remember I used to love it when she would take me to school or she would take me to all these gatherings. It's just me and my mom, and I thought that was really cool. So growing up, I knew that I always wanted to be an engineer. That was like my biggest dream, until the very last day I set for my final exams in high school. That's when I realized that dream wasn't for me. But when I look back, the only reason why I really wanted, what was pushing me to become an engineer, was because that was a field that wasn't common for girls. And I kind of had that rebellious nature that I wanted to do something that people believe that girls are not going to do. So even though I was good in sciences, but I figured out engineering was not for me. So life pushed me in different directions. But eventually I landed on project management. And but the underlying, I think my passion and the underlying thing that I've always been doing ever since I was introduced to the internet, and I must say, maybe I was one of the lucky few young Tanzanians to be introduced to computers and internet at a very young age, when they weren't really a thing. I don't think most of you even remember, before Internet Explorer, we used to have Netscape. I don't know if people remember that. Well, it would take you 10 minutes to open one page. So, and I think it just opened up this whole possibility of what could possibly happen over the internet with connections, and especially with empowering people with information. So that has been something that has pushed me. But over my experience, just as soon as I finished high school, I started working. I worked in an advertising agency. So that was my first introduction to this whole world of advertising, marketing. With that, I got into entertainment, but then I moved to construction, which is also not very typical for women. Then I moved into telecommunications. So I was in a different field, building cell site towers for mobile network companies in Tanzania and Rwanda. And then, so on the side, I started my own businesses. So obviously with technology, I started an online shoe shop. And then I was doing events management, and which led me for our paths to cross with Faraja Nyalandu when she was starting Shule Direct. So that's how I came into Shule Direct. And the minute she told me the story, because it had to do with technology, it had to do with young people, and I was like, yeah, I am sold. This is something that I definitely want to do because I see the potential in it. So we started Shule Direct, and then 3 years later, we started Ndoto Hub. But really the reason why we started Ndoto Hub was, so Shule Direct was focusing on empowering young people with education. And we were looking at, like how can we give them access to information and empower them to realize their full potential? And then you realize that we're focusing on the secondary space. There are people who either don't graduate from secondary to high school, or they would graduate, but there's still so many factors that will not make a young person confident that, I would go all the way to university, but I'm not so sure that I'll get employed. And unfortunately, our system was structured such that you go to school to get a good job. It wasn't you go to school to be self-employable or to solve a problem. So realizing that, we started Ndoto Hub, and really Ndoto Hub was like, we are sharing our own experiences of being young women entrepreneurs. By then I was young, I'm not so young anymore. So we were in this space back then, trying to make it against all these odds and the barriers and issues that we faced. And we realized that the biggest thing that for any young woman today is not so much about if their idea is good, because you would meet so many other people out there who would have half-baked ideas, but the way they would sell them so confidently, they would go places. So we realized that really for a young woman, the biggest issue first is overcoming our own barriers, because what we hear is what we believe. So we hear this so much, that women can't, women are inferior, women don't have access, women are not able to express themselves. So these are the things that make our beliefs. So even to be able to stand in front of people and just introduce yourself for a woman is always a challenge. So we created this space that is only for women, and we're saying, okay, you have a great idea as a young woman between 19 and 30 years old. We're going to bring you to the space. We're not going to only teach you entrepreneurship or the business discipline, but we're also going to encourage and enhance your personal leadership skills, because what really makes a successful person at the end of the day is who they are as a person. And we think for women, the most important thing is helping them become confident, helping them to just be able to express themselves. And this really, we're taking it from our own personal stories. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow. Thank you so much, Iku, for your wonderful introduction and your story. I love that you've been a learner and you've gone through different industries, and your underlying passion for internet and technology has always stood with you, and also for making an impact on young people, and now also onto young women. And I want to touch base on when you said that women don't know how to introduce themselves. It's very true, because if you're in a context and there's women and there's men usually introduce themselves as, hey, my name is John, this is what I do. They speak about what they do. But women, they tend to introduce, hi, my name is Mary, I am the wife of John, I have 2 kids. They start with their personal identity, like their family identity first, before going into their career or professional identity. And always, they don't really like to talk about themselves. They kind of like play it down. So as men, they're more, bold and out there to speak about themselves. But as women, we kind of shy down because we're afraid that we're becoming too aggressive or too loud. But we should be bold enough and confident enough to express who we are, and welcome that, and it's okay to be a strong woman, or a woman that knows herself and knows her brand. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much to all the panelists who shared your introduction. So we're going to get into the next couple of questions because we are limited on time. So if you could keep your answers brief, and so if we can have any last questions from the audience. So the next question is about gender. I mean, some of you answered this. So understanding, gender inclusion in your own context of your work or your community or your direct stakeholders in your circle. How do you address gender inclusion? What have you done personally, even outside of your work? What have you done? How have people changed from your approaches, or even in leadership, in social entrepreneurship, basically in your community? So welcome, Sakela, if you have an answer for that question.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I work at Digital Opportunity Trust as a gender officer. So my work is to mainly ensure that we are putting women first in all our initiatives and everything that we're doing. And at Digital Opportunity Trust, gender is our core value. So we exist to push gender equality. We exist to empower women and for a society to be an equal gender society. So I'll start with what we're doing at Digital Opportunities Trust before I start talking about what I'm doing personally, and I hope I'll be as brief as possible. So at Digital Opportunity Trust, we are working to enhance resilience and economic inclusion to women, to participating women who are unemployed or underpaid. So basically what we're doing is to support and develop decision-making power and leadership of young women and women at large to make sure that they thrive in this society where there are a lot of challenges that hold them back in taking advantage of economic opportunities around them. So that will raise a question like, how are we doing that? So in the next 3 years, we are planning to, we are strategizing to work to make sure that we really stay frontline in empowering women. So we have very interesting strategies moving forward. So the first one is we want to use research in empowering women. So basically it's going down to the root cause of every problem or every solution that has worked or what women really want. With research, we want to talk to women and see and hear from them firsthand what really is the problem and what has really worked. And this, we want to also work with different stakeholders to see what are they really working on, and what success have they achieved, and what challenges are they facing, so that we really understand how to help women. And the research that we will be conducting, we want to create space for dialogue and to also start conversations on then what should be done depending on the findings that we have received. And with this, we also want to include women directly and to hear from them directly. What do they really want, and so that we really know how to help them. And with also research, we also want to call for action, because we want other stakeholders to also take part in what we're doing. And we also want to convince the government and different organizations so that we work together to impact life of young women and women at large. And we also want to include women in the decision making, and making sure that every initiative that we are designing and every movement that we'll be building comes from women themselves, because we do not want to just design initiatives, to just design trainings without involving women themselves. And we have been talking to women, so we are doing co-designing of ICT for women. we are working with Kenya, Lebanon, and Uganda to make sure that we create an initiative and training that will impact women's life. And what we started with, we started talking to women themselves, and the stories that we hear from women are incredible. We talked directly to them through phone calls, and we met some of them, and it really opens your eyes to what's really happening, because we were privileged to get education, to be exposed, but what really happens at the root is really it's really different. So we talked to. I'll give you a few stories. So there is a woman who is above 55, and what she said really opened my eyes, and I started wondering, like, so this is what is happening. So in using her phone to promote her business, she does not know how Instagram operates. And with Facebook, and I was confident that in Facebook, there's a Swahili version of Facebook. And I was like, if you can't use Instagram, then Facebook has a Swahili version. You know what she told me? She said, the Swahili that is in Facebook is even confusing. So it's better that she use the English version, and she does not understand what is happening, because the vocabularies that are inserted in Facebook and in Google Swahili, she cannot understand. And there are also stories. Then we asked her, then what do you think would work for you? And she proposed that we should find a way to talk to those who are developing these applications, to make sure that they have user guidance for them. They might be inserted in Swahili or in English, but they have to be guided on how to exactly use the phone to their benefit. And another funny story is how they do not feel safe. They hear a lot of things happening. They hear a lot of women facing a lot of harassment online. So they fear being online, and they feel like it's not a safe space for them. And because they are not online, and because they have low digital skills, they really cannot benefit from the benefits that the internet provides, mostly those who are privileged to understand and use the internet. And with that, we were also testing with what the problems that they expressed they're facing. We also went back with a test. Like you suggested a number of initiatives that we have to take to make sure that you make it or you exist online. So will this really work? We had to test a concept. So we called them and had a conversation with them again. And it's very surprising that they really want to get out there. They just do not know how. They just do not know where to start. And many of them communicated a need of a mentor, a role model, and people that will hold their hands as they start taking places online. So women have people that they look up to. They have people that they really wish to be like them, but they do not know where to start to get there. So, and we were able to understand all that because of the research that we had. So it's really important that we really talk to women themselves, and to make sure in every decision we're making and every initiative that we're designing, we include them firsthand. And we also want to create an ecosystem that is support. A support system where women will be helped now to exist online, to increase their digital skills and also business skills, because Digital Opportunity Trust exists to make sure that they exist online, right? But if we provide them with trainings and all the skills that they need to prosper in an online environment, they'll also need loans. They also need regulations that support them. They also need people who are in the top decision-making table to make regulations that will support them. So in creating that, we are planning to talk to partners, organizations, so that we have a discussion on really how to really help women. And we believe if we are all working together, we'll really impact life of a young woman or an older woman for that matter. And we also want to have intensive trainings to women, to provide intensive training so that they are equipped with digital skills, they are equipped with all the skills that they will need to prosper in business. And the good thing about what we're doing is that we also involve women in the designing stage. So they say what they want to learn and what they think is not very important. So it happens that I really thought women want to know how to use the internet. That's what was on my mind. Oh, that was in our mind. But then they communicated they don't feel safe. So they want to be trained on how to take care of themselves online. And because we incorporated inputs from different women, many young women communicated that they want to be trained on how to use social media to brand themselves. And when you come to older women, they don't even know that you can use social media to brand yourself. So when we were testing our concept, it was also a learning process for older women, because then when we asked them, do you want to learn how to use your phone to brand yourself? They're like, so I can use my phone to brand myself. And it becomes a learning process for them and also for us, and to make sure that we incorporate such kind of learning in their trainings. And they also communicated that they wanted trainings where they will be mentored in groups. Like if we find their role models or mentors that will coach them, they have to be in groups. And they communicated themselves that they prefer groups because then it will also be an opportunity for them to learn from each other and to learn from the mentor. And as Iku said, we always hear what the society tells us. So there's a saying that women do not like each other, but talking to them directly, it felt different. Like all of these women are communicating that they want to learn each other, and there are words out there that women do not like each other. I was like, this is crazy. Like there's a great need to incorporate women in designing what we are designing. And one important thing was also time. So we talked to them, what is an appropriate time that they would like to be trained on? We did not feel like we're in a process or we are in a position to just dictate time. Like we'll be providing training, let's say from 9 in the morning, let's say from 3 in the afternoon. So by talking to them, we realized time is very important. We cannot have a one size fit all, because some of the women.
Mm-hmm. Hello? Thank you so much, Sakela. Thank you so much. So I welcome our next panelist to share really brief, because we're out of time, on your gender inclusion and what roles you have played, even outside of work. You know, our identities, our job title doesn't limit our identity. We affect people outside of our communities indirectly and directly. So welcome, Iku, to share your perspective on gender.
Well, thanks. So I would start with our organization. We actually had to put policies in place for ensuring there's gender inclusion and gender equality. And I think primarily because the organization was started by women. So it was a space that we really wanted to make sure that there's that equality, and we also use it as a place to demonstrate that, you know, women can lead and what women can do should they be empowered. And I think, so if you look at the team holistically, you would realize that there's more men than women. And partly that's because the biggest part of the team is the technical team, because we build everything in-house. And we've had a really huge challenge in recruiting female programmers. That for us remains to be one of the biggest challenges, and that's a realistic challenge. But also when you're looking at, like for instance, I did advanced mathematics in A levels, and there were only 9 women in a class of 45. And that should give you a picture of how many women actually were going into sciences. Luckily now that number is growing. So that's really a really huge thing. But now when we're looking at the youth empowerment, like, as we said, we started Lotto Hub, which is primarily focusing only on young women. And the reason was because when we were looking at the informal sector, at least you would see that there was a research that showed at least 65% of those who make up the informal sector were women. So that means it's women who are actually automatically, they're not included in the socioeconomic empowerment because you're in the informal sector, and chances are you will continue to be in the informal sector. There are those who make it from the informal sector, but if you're a woman and you're disadvantaged, then it already means your chances are less compared to men. So that's why it was so important for us to, first of all, to just show these young women the impact of the businesses that they're doing, that they think they're just businesses that they're doing from their bedrooms or from their kitchens or from their mom's backyards, but actually they are contributing a lot to the economy. So we wanted to show them first, they have to understand that, that this is the impact. And now how can we actually grow them to formalize them? So our biggest push for us is an incubator. We're taking business ideas. We help them learn. We help them at least register a business. So by the time they move from Lotto Hub, they're already registering their business. So it's a formal business that's recognized by BRELA. They're going through, the TIN identification. They have the taxpayer identification numbers so that they're paying their taxes. So now it's a legal business entity. So that way, that already positions them for more growth and for more success and sustainability for their businesses. So for us, we believe, because every woman that comes into our space, their biggest challenge or their biggest target is to empower other people who are dependent on them. So either it's their families or it's the society around them. So for us, it's so important that if we can empower these few young women, we know that we're actually helping their entire society. So that for us, I would say we have looked at gender equality and empowerment from that angle. Personally, I also work with the Tanzania Breast Cancer Foundation. So I help, and it's a women-led organization. They're all breast cancer survivors who started this foundation to help other women and families who are going through this crisis. Because what they realize is either you have a patient in the family, and if it's a woman, she's the bread earner or the breadwinner, especially for the kids. So they would suffer economically. And some patients would travel from very far outside of Dar es Salaam to come here for treatment, and they won't have anyone to look after them. But there's also the emotional support that is so needed going through this. So, for me, I volunteer with this organization. I volunteer with them on fundraising initiatives and activities and event planning. So I just use my expertise on event planning. But I think it's also about empowering, because they also do train young girls in schools, promoting like the breast cancer awareness and awareness on general health and sexual and reproductive health for young women as well.
Wonderful, Iku. Thank you so much for that explanation and your focus on gender inclusion. I'd like to welcome Vanessa. I know we only have 15 minutes left. So if you can share how you're helping women, and also if there are any big challenges that you see women face. And then after that, we're going to do a closing remarks.
Okay, great. Okay,
welcome,
so
Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Brennan. I'll start with personally. So I've been working with women a bit of a longer time. From high school, I was working with women in areas of personal development and spiritual development. I'm not a pastor's daughter, but I was sort kind of that. So I really worked with them on their spiritual growth and personal development, because that's one of the challenges that women, we lose faith on ourselves. That's one of the things that I've come to really experience at a personal level. After that, from university to now, I have had a chance to work with different organizations, including Buni, Buni Divas, and then I worked with a Swedish organization called Help to Help for almost 3 years. supporting women in universities getting in technology and employability, I also started an initiative for young girls on areas of personal development, financial independence, and tech, called Girl Next Door. It was amazing because one of the greatest thing that I experienced was the support system that everybody was willing to share. So Buni offered the venue, and then I had some amazing ladies and gentlemen who were there to offer the training and the mentorship. So that, for me, it's very important for these women and girls to have a good support system from the rest of the community. But then one of the things that I learned when I started working with Sarah Ventures as Sarah Sparks lead in 2018. And then one of the things that I came to realize was still the gap of women included or in women representation, actually, to rephrase it, in our events, in our Sahara Sparks stage. And I was like, okay, something needs to be done. And I had to communicate that to the leadership, and it was really good to see that there was really positive embrace of that. And the idea was to start an event that is exclusively catering these women entrepreneurs, so later we can integrate them in the Sahara Sparks platform. But then a vision grows whenever it starts. It's like a seed. Whenever you pour more water and other things in it, it grows. And so it evolved from an event to, we were like, we need to add more value to it. With my girls here at Sahara, we need to add more values in it. And with the rest of the team, we made it a full-fledged program. In a year, it turned into an initiative, its own, with its own mission, and really focusing on women entrepreneurs and women-led businesses in Tanzania and hopefully in Africa. And the reason why we chose this direction, first of all, in our team, most of the women are entrepreneurs. Yes, we are working with our ventures, most of them that are in the team, but also almost about 60–70% have their own independent ventures that are running outside, which is a very good thing, because now you share the journey with these entrepreneurs, you understand what they're going through. But even more important, at a personal level, I do take time with these entrepreneurs. I had one of the most engaging, amazing experience with one of the entrepreneurs yesterday, one-on-one with her. And she shared a story. And in every time I sit with these women, I realize two things. One, what they need is a support system. Second, what they need is a safe space, because sometimes as women, we don't know how to shed off the trauma that we go through. So we kind of need an outlet and a safe space that can kind of remind us of the hope and the value that we carry. And then we need a place, a support system that supports our dreams and businesses. So in the end of the day, I was like, hey lady, how many bags? So she has a food business. How many bags do you have at home? She's like, right now about 29. I made about 29. How many of them have you sold? None. I was like, okay, wait for me there. And then I went around to everybody in the office who has a child. I have a 3-year-old, and I made sure we sold about 10 bags. So I was like, then after that, we now have to make sure we sold all the 29 bags, and then we move forward. That is how I work with women, because I know one thing for a fact. My parents have raised us to be independent. I left home when I was 21. And I'm not saying my dad liked it, but I was like, it's your result. But the thing is, one of the biggest challenge that women really face is that independence, self-independence from the fear that they have, the trauma that they've been through, just igniting the hope again, but also economic independence. And when we look at the data, the entrepreneurship in Africa run the continent. But also, of all the entrepreneurs in Africa, almost 50% of them are women who run small businesses. So what does that mean? if we empower those women economically, we have the ability of increasing almost 255 to 300, is it million or billion US dollars in GDP in Africa. So that says a lot, but also a lot of women are suffering because of lack of economic dependent to systems that either undervalue them or violate them as women and all that. But if we can give this woman a financial option, then she is free. As an organization, Sahara Ventures, we have one thing is for sure, and I'm personally at the center of championing that, is to first all the programs to be gender lens and really be inclusive. And we have done several projects like Inspire 100 in Iringa, where we're focused and worked with women in rural areas to help them really adapt digital and understand digital for their business and brand themselves. We've done acceleration programs like Lishi Accelerator for women in the food and agriculture sector, which were running massive, big enterprises. And most of them were women actually interesting. And it's good to see that we really are not short of women running the continent economically, but we're short of the support system that there is to actually acknowledge them and push them. Because in the end of the day, if women succeed, it's the whole continent that are succeeding. And just one thing to be sure is, I would love the society to understand that when we're talking about empowering a girl child, or a woman, or just a child generally, we're not saying we're against the rest of the community. We're just saying there's a very big chunk of this community that if only they can get support, as a community would be in a far better position. Because if mom and dad can both bring bread at home, it means even the stress, the mental health issues will go down, because now not one person is bearing all the burden. So yeah, that's my personal belief. But also, lastly, I'm working so hard with women in digital access and digital entrepreneurship, because that's the area I'm passionate about. And I have background in tech, so I'm really passionate about seeing more women in tech.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for your wonderful story and your passion and the work that you're doing in really engaging with even women in your own space and outside of your space. So with that, we're coming to a close. I do see so many questions here, and I'm like, I really want to make sure that we get to at least a question before we share our closing remarks. So there's been a lot of questions basically about, what are the greatest challenges? Women are not confident. How do we make them confident? One question that really stuck out to me is, how do we reach women in the regions? Women who do not have access to technology, women who are right in the core, at the bottom of the pyramid, in the rural areas, don't have access to technology. Maybe they, only have the torch phone. How are you or your organizations engaging in them? Because I know all of you are based in Dar es Salaam, which is great. Dar es Salaam gets a lot of input, training, education, exposure. But what about the women in the regions? That really stuck out to me. So if anybody has something to share, especially those who do not have access to technology, how are you reaching them? If anybody has a solution that you have been engaging with. And keep it really short. Any of the panelists?
Okay, so from our side, I gave an example of one of the projects that we.
Okay.
Yes. One of the projects that we did called Inspire 100, that we really went to reach out to women in rural areas, but also at the moment, on the side of She Found, I'm really looking forward with the rest of the team. We're really designing a project that can really encourage two things. First, digital access, but most important, a conducive environment that provides that encourage these women, if we give them digital access and digital literacy, to actually grow in the digital world, because we still have an policy environment, policy landscape environment, and financial access. Because in the end of the day, even if they're going to use Instagram, they need good bundles to actually be on the internet. So we're really looking forward to work with different partners. I'm definitely going to reach out to IKU because Ndoto Hub is definitely one of the very key players in empowering women entrepreneurs in Tanzania. So yeah, that's definitely something that we're looking forward and something that we have done.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really like that Inspire 100 that you go out to the women in the regions. It's really also meeting women where they're at. You know, instead of saying, okay, come over here, okay, you'll come over here, but what's that constant accountability and track record? So we don't have time. We only have 2 minutes left. If we could please have our closing remarks here. I do really want to respect our time because we only have 1 hour for this session. And for those of you who had questions, please, we will share our emails, but we can also have these questions and answer them, or the panelists can answer them while we're sending our last remarks in the Q&A comment box. So I would like to start with Sekela, if you could share your closing remarks. One last closing remark, something inspirational that you want all the attendees to go home with about an inclusive growth for women.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I wanted to add something on I'll make it very fast. How are we working to make sure that women are included even in rural areas? So basically what Dot Tanzania is doing is we are trying to empower women to work with whatever material and devices they have. So if they have Kitochi, that basic phone that does not have internet, we train them on how to use it to benefit them in their business, like how to then text her customers, how to use mobile money, how to stay in touch with their customers so that they also make a lot of profit and they use the devices at a benefit. And also in closing remark that I would want our participants to leave with is like they've heard that we have mentioned the word woman like 1,000 times, and I wanted to say why are we then emphasizing on women? We are emphasizing on women because women are less likely to be educated in most of medium countries and low income countries. Women are less likely to be educated, and if we are educated, then we are less likely to be employed. The number of women that are employed is by 48% low. Compared to men. And when we are also employed, there is also a big chance that we be paid less than men. So women are paid less even if they are working the same field and the same position as men. And also there is a fact that we are behind in all spheres of life. So we really need initiatives to make sure that we empower women and they stay on top of their games.
Thank you so much, Sekela. Wonderful closing remarks. Karibu, Vanessa.
Sorry. Okay, so for young women, I would say one thing: be the best version of yourself right where you are, and the universe will notice and promote you. That has been my rule. That has been my rule. You keep on pushing the boundaries, but be the best version, because nobody can overlook a best version, a best work, a best person. That will be my advice. To the rest of the world, I would really love. Thank you. I would really encourage that we create a good pipeline of support system and a safe space for women, especially economically. One of the things that broke my heart yesterday or the day before yesterday was reading news from New Zealand, where because of COVID-19, 11,000 people lost their jobs, but 10,000 of them were women.
That's very sad. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if we can hear Vanessa. Vanessa froze. Well, maybe thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing to be the best version of yourself. Maybe we can go on to Iku because we're past our time right now.
Wow. Thanks. This has been very enlightening. And I've also enjoyed the comments and the questions as well. So I would say to every young woman out there, you are enough. And I think the biggest thing that we have to overcome is our own selves, because that's our biggest competition and our biggest, I don't want to say enemy, it's like the biggest voice that would hinder yourself. So we should be very cautious of how we talk to ourselves. We really need to overcome and speak positively to ourselves. And I think the biggest responsibility we have as women in every situation, in every place that you are placed in, you must do your best. I really like what Vanessa just said, because for us, you're not doing your best just for yourself, you're doing your best even for other women. So when we're saying women lifting other women, even being successful is you lifting another woman, because if you can do something well, it means now more women will have that opportunity to do that same thing. So we really must, in every situation that we are in, we must always strive to be better, always do our best. Thank you so much to everyone who's been listening.
Thank you so much, Iku. Thank you so much. I really like that you said, it's what your self-talk, what are you saying to yourself? And it's a really good reminder that we need to love ourselves. You cannot love others if you don't love yourself. I do want to add on the closing as we wrap this up is we need to stop comparing ourselves, because there's only one you and you are unique. And we need to stop listening to the negative comments of other people. A quick thing is, when I got into the banking industry, I was the only female in the bank, and all the men told me that I could not make it. They're like, Bernice, it's a bank here. We're all sharks. It's competitive. You can't make it. And they came and put me down. But I had a mentor. I had the confidence, and I was like, I'm not going to listen to what they're going to say. And I worked hard and I showed up, and I actually became the number one in the entire district. I was first place. I would get my bonuses in the bank as the only female. And so I'm just using that as a story because I didn't listen to the negativities of all these men until they started to respect me and call me Sharkeisha. They said they're sharks. They're like, oh, we got a Sharkeisha here. So I just want to say, be bold. Don't listen to negative comments of other people. Don't compare yourself. Know what you bring to the table. Know your worth and what God has given you, and keep on rising and get mentors and help each other wherever you can. So thank you so much to all the wonderful panelists. I really enjoyed moderating this session, full of passion, full of humble humility, and great work that each one of you are doing and your organizations. Thank you so much to DOT Tanzania for hosting this wonderful summit. We really appreciate your hard work, and thank you for everybody that has tuned in. We look forward to engaging with you all. You can find us. There have been email exchanges, so you can come and find us after this session. And I'm sure this session will be up on YouTube later on, so you can watch the replay. With that, I wish you a wonderful Friday, and thank you so much. And somebody's asking, how can you connect with the panelists? So maybe the panelists, if you could please drop in your email in the comment box before we close out our session, because we've gone 6 minutes beyond time. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Friday, and we can connect. We can also connect on LinkedIn or any other social media platform.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Bye. It was good to connect with you guys.
Even if it's over.
So we're sharing the emails. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think we can close out.
Bye.
Bye.